Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video I'll be showing you how to make some Turkish couscous. It's a great recipe. It's one you can make on a Sunday and just keep it in the fridge and eat it every day of the week. It's very simple. It does take a while though, so bear with me. To begin with, we're just going to measure out 250 grams of couscous. If you go over, it's not a big deal. It's just around 250 grams. Once that's done, you can set aside the scale. Then we're going to go in with the spices, some cumin, as well as some paprika. This adds some very nice Mediterranean kind of taste to it. And then of course a pinch of salt. So, and then you're going to give that a good mix to prevent it from being too flavorful on one side, and making sure you just get a good even coat on the couscous. Then we're going to add some hot boiling water. You want to have the water just over the top of the couscous, so you want to make sure that to mix it in, that way the water gets into all the couscous, even the couscous at the bottom, because if you just pour it in, it might just stay and float at the top. So once that's done, grab a plate and put that over the top. Set that aside for around 10 minutes. Once that's all done and the couscous is cooking in the hot water, we're going to start with the onion. And now it's pretty important to pay attention to the onion, because you don't want to overdo it. You can very easily overdo it with the onion and it becomes very powerful, and it's not very nice. Of course, if you like onion, by all means add it. But for this recipe, and if you're making it for the first time, just go with half a red onion. So now what we're doing, I'm just peeling the outside layer of it, and we're just gonna chop it up, making sure to remove any of the root that's left over on the chopping board. Now it's just, we're doing a classic dicing with the onion. You cut it like so, and then perpendicular to the root, and you can chop it up like that. This makes nice even little squares. Of course, if you miss some, you can go back and chop that up. Then chuck that all into a bowl. And then next, we'll be chopping up the tomatoes. And as I struggle to get this sticker off, we'll just fast forward through this bit. Slice the side of it so you have a nice stable surface to cut it. Now the tomato's a bit tricky. You don't want to. If you have a serrated knife, it's best to use that. It just works with the skin of the tomato, as it can be quite dangerous using a sharp knife. If it's not sharp enough, it won't slice through the skin of the tomato. Now I'm sure you're bored of watching tomatoes being sliced, so you can just fast forward through all that. Of course, if you miss anything, again, you can just go back and chop it up. Make sure it's nice and fine. You don't want any big bits of tomato. Again, into the bowl where you put the onion in. Next, some cucumber. Grab a cucumber and then struggle to get the plastic off, so we can fast forward through this part. Once you get it out of the plastic, chop the ends off to start with, and then you can chop it into quarters, so down the middle first. Again, just make it into fine little pieces. You could have it into long pieces if you want. Again, it's up to personal preference. Personally, I like mine all fine and chopped like so. Again, into the bowl without spilling it all, of course. Once that's done, grab a chili, chop that at an angle. If you want, again, cut it however you like. You can leave the seeds in, leave them out, whatever. Seeds make it a little bit, add a little heat to it. Personally, I like adding heat to my food. Then once that's finished, that's pretty much most of the vegetables done. I'm going to grab the couscous and fluff it up. Couscous does, once it's cooked, it's very sticky, and it tends to clump to itself very easily. Once that's done, we're going to grab some parsley and some coriander. Just a few stalks out from a bunch, and then just bunch that all up and chop it. It might be easier to do it in portions. As you can see, I struggle a bit to keep it all on the chopping board. It would make it a lot easier to chop it up in portions. You can, as you saw, I did leave in the stalks. You can leave in the stalks. It's not too much of a big deal as long as you're cutting it up nice and fine. Then we're gonna go in with some mint. You don't need too much, just a bit. You just want a hint of mint. You don't want it to overpower the dish at all. Just chop that up again, nice and fine, like so. And then you can add that into the bowl with everything else. Making sure, once again, it's all chopped up. As you can see there, that's the bowl where I've been adding everything in. Shake it around a bit. You can mix it, although you're going to mix it up later on. Grab the couscous. Now we're going to add some tomato puree. This bit gets a bit messy, so make sure you wash your hands before doing it. Tablespoon of tomato puree into the bowl of couscous. Now basically here you just want to make sure all the couscous is incorporated and is coated with that tomato puree. Of course, I realize now that that bowl is way too small to even attempt to mix in the tomato puree, so I grab a bigger one. In a way, this did actually help to get the couscous at the bottom, as that hadn't been fluffed up yet, as you can see. It does stick to itself in the bottom of bowls very easily. And now, as you'll see here, I'm just breaking it all up, making sure the tomato puree is fully incorporated with everything. Once again here, just making sure there's no big clumps of couscous. If you don't let it cook for too long, you might be able to get away with it not clumping up too much. I think I left it for just a tad bit too long, hence with all the clumps, etc. Also, when you're fluffing it up, make sure you're doing it in a bigger bowl. It just helps so you can get a lot of the air in. Now, transferring that over into the other bowl without dropping it or spilling any couscous, that would be helpful. Once you've done that, both hands just mix it in. Nothing to it really, just making sure everything's very evenly mixed in. You don't want any areas where it's no couscous or no veggies. Just making sure it's all mixed evenly. And then once that's done, you can add some olive oil. The olive oil adds a very nice flavor to it. Just in with around two tablespoons, 3 if you want. Of course, just as always, add to your flavor. However, the recipe does call for 2 tablespoons, and that's plenty, really. Next, you want to set aside the olive oil and then grab a plate to dish it up. Now of course you could add it with the chicken, as I did in the previous recipe, or you can eat it by itself. By itself it's perfectly fine. It's a nice light snack, or you can have it for lunch, whatever. You can sprinkle it with a bit more coriander on the top and you're done.